but I'll never forget
Whoa.
when I was at a sandy part of the trail when watch finally hit 50, and I remember just like that was just so. I was like, all right, I'm just on the last handful of miles, but seeing 50 on my watch, um, was really gnarly. And at that point, you could start seeing the shadows, like the sun was going down, and it really set in that like I woke up, started running in the woods, the sun came up, went to the highest point, and is already setting. Like there's something like when you're measuring time by the
Dang.
sun, like I was like, oh man. But I started to get anxiety because I was like, all right, I don't want to finish in the dark. Like I want to. So I kind of these
Hmm.
last few miles, I kind of hit the gas a little bit because, um, for whatever reason, in my mind, I was like, I wanted to I didn't want the sun to set on me. I remember, and then when I crossed the finish line, I stopped running. Like I'm in that same parking lot that I parked at. My car is right there,
Mhm.
and I just like it hit me that like I've been running for almost 12 hours. Like it's so you you even though I was the one doing it, like I did it. It was almost hard to like conceptualize myself. Like it's not like an hour, 2 hours, like oh all morning. It's like no, all day. Like people woke up, went to work for 8 hours, came home, had dinner, watched a movie, and I was still running. Like something about that. Oh man, I that that feeling that was yeah, that was really really cool.
This is your host, Brendan, and you're listening to the Ordinary to Ultra podcast. This podcast is all about helping you run your first ultramarathon and beyond. Tune in to hear new and experienced ultra runners share how they got into running in the first place, what inspired them to run an ultra, training and race day tips, and the gripping story of their first ultramarathon. Prepare yourself to be inspired as you hear stories of grit, sometimes failure, but ultimately triumph when our guests finally cross the finish line. Few clothing companies out there have actual trail runners design their trail running clothes, and Territory Run Co. is the few. Brett Farrell, the founder of Territory Run Co., has been an avid trail runner for over 15 years, and he's designed some of the most thoughtful, functional, and just cool trail running clothing I've ever worn. 5-panel hats, t-shirts, sun shirts, shorts, socks, beanies, and more. They've got it all. I personally, though, love Territory Run Co.'s products for 2 reasons. First, I love their vibe. Most running brands are built around this performance is everything vibe, like work hard, sweat hard. That's fine, but we have enough of those. Territory Run Co. is built around the feeling that you get when you go out and try a new trail for the first time, or when you go on a trail running trip with friends. Second, Territory Run Co. builds their products for trail runners by trail runners. I have 2 of their hats, and they're my go-to running hats because they're incredibly light, super breathable, have super cool outdoorsy patterns, and I can throw them in the washing machine, which is super convenient. But what I love most about them is they have a little loop that goes around that floppy strap in the back of the hat that keeps it from flopping in front of your face if you're wearing it backwards, which is fantastic. Anyway, if y'all are in the market for some trail running hats or clothing, go check out Territory Run Co. And lucky for you, Brett has hooked me up with a coupon code for the listeners of this podcast. So head over to territoryrun.co and use the code ordinary to ultra20 to get 20% off your first order. Both the website and the code are listed in the show notes of this episode. So go down to the show notes, copy the code, tap the link, and get some sick gear. All right, thanks for listening. Now back to the show. Hey, Andrew, thanks so much for being here today, man. Super excited to get into your story, man. And I think Patrick was your brother, correct? That we
Yes,
had on a
sir.
few weeks ago.
Yes,
Dang.
sir. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is sick. We got Andrew here. He's the brother of Patrick Griggs, who came on. His episode was maybe 2 months ago at the time that this episode will come out. Anyway, but it's fun to connect with multiple people in the same family. But Andrew, thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm super excited to talk about the nitty gritty, dirty details.
Yeah, man, I'm jazzed about it. Yeah, I can tell you're a passionate man and passionate about the sport, and I'm
Yeah,
excited to get your insights and your stories. So, would you mind introducing yourself high level, real quick, like how old you are, where you're living, what you do for work right now, what your family looks like, that sort of thing?
yeah. So my name is Andrew Griggs. I'm 26 years old. From South Jersey. I am all over the place. I'm currently in Tahoe. Just worked at a summer camp. Before that, I was working at a distillery in Atlantic City. Um, I was also working at the Flanders Hotel. It's like a 100-year-old hotel in Ocean City, New Jersey. Um, I studied literature in college. I got my degree at Stockton, same place as my brother. I played 4 years of college soccer, 2 years at Randolph-Macon College in Virginia, and then I transferred to Stockton. Um, yeah, and I've been doing ultra running for the last like 2 years now. Um, yeah, so that's a pretty good synopsis of who I am.
Dang, that's sick, man. What was I gonna say? Ultra running for the last 2 years. That's sick. And it sounds like you've been running before. You did soccer. You've sort of been in it, but don't even comment on that. We'll
Yeah.
get to how you started running in the first place really soon.
Hmm.
In fact, yeah, I guess I don't have any other follow up questions for you. So let's do it. So Andrew, whenever it was and why, when and why did you get into running?
Yeah. So similar to my brother, um, I was playing soccer and I wanted to play college soccer, and I ended up playing all 4 years. But all the running I did in college was just I just did enough. Like I worked hard, but I just did enough because I wanted to be a starter. I just wanted to play. Like I didn't love running. I followed the programs. And my last season of college soccer was the fall of 2019, and I I was honestly kind of lost. Like I didn't know what to do. My whole life I'd been involved in um, organized sports, so I was kind of just floating around in this like surfing because it was like it rolled right into COVID. Um, I was just surfing,
Dude.
I was just
Hmm.
working out in the gym, but not running. Like you couldn't catch me running. Like there was no way. Um, like I looked at the runners like they were chumps. I was like, I'm going to the gym. Like I'm trying to get swole. Um, yeah, I had no interest at all. Um, but I just like I wasn't fulfilled. Like you walk into the gym, you're in the shoebox, you sit down and like move your muscles around, and like for what? What am I gonna do that for the next 40 years? And just like it just there was nothing there, but I didn't know what the other side looked like. Um, so yeah, I was doing that for a couple years, and then my buddy Garrett, shout out to him in the sorry, I'm like not in the best spot.
You're good, man. You are louder than them, so that's all that matters.
Cool, cool. So yeah, I was kind of just floating around this like surfing whenever, working out, just like. Then my buddy Garrett in the spring of 2022 was like, "Yo, dude, I'm doing a triathlon." Like it clicked immediately. I was like, "That is sick." I was like, "That's sick." And I think that night, um, I like looked in the shed, found like an old mountain bike that was like rusted up, and rode for like 4 miles. I was just like, I want to do this too. So, yeah. So I signed up for an Olympic try in Atlantic City. Um, that was happening in June of 2022. So I just went after it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but just running when I could, biking when I could, and just trying to find a place I could swim.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so I think I could tell early on that like swimming, like I love training. I figured out that I love doing this. I felt like I had this goal. Um, but swimming is hard to come by. Like to find a pool or an area to swim, it's expensive. Same thing with a bike. Like I had a crappy bike, but running, like I could always just do that. I could always just do that. Um, so yeah, I kind of like honestly, I kind of lost my train of thought. Um,
That's okay. So, so we were asking how you got into running,
yeah,
and then yeah, you got into tri. And how did the triathlon go though? Like before we move on from that.
yeah. So, as far as like the whole like racing other people, like I didn't place, or actually, I think I came in like fifth in my age group, but it was a super small triathlon.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
but I knew I was like getting in great shape. I was something about it I liked. I was like, I like putting these sports together. Like it was really, really cool. Um, so the day after that, I signed up for a half Ironman in Atlantic City that was happening like
Uh,
the next month. So continued my training just like with no plan, just swimming, biking, and running. Um, and I did that Ironman or half Ironman that same summer, just later. And in that training, it was starting to kind of I was starting to figure out that I liked the running. I was doing a lot of like off the saddle like runs, biking for a couple miles and then running, and I just like it was so hard, but I just loved it. Like that feeling in my legs, it was just unreal. So I did that half Ironman, and the next month there
can
was the Atlantic City Marathon. Um,
okay.
so I signed up for that, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna get after this. And I think
Hmm.
I remember on Strava, um, I posted like a couple days after the Ironman when I got back to my training. I went on a run and I was like, the caption was like, all right, like officially my marathon prep starts now. Then like the next day after that, I hit like a 20-miler run at like an 8:30 pace, and one of my buddies commented was like, yeah, I think your marathon prep is over. And like it was like in that interaction where I was like, okay, like there's something here with running. Like I like this.
Whoa. So you're telling me you went out there on your first day of training and you ran 20 miles
Well,
at
I
an
mean, I had been like
8:30 pace?
I had been
You'd
training all
already been
summer
training.
for like
Yeah,
triathlon, but
totally. Yeah.
it was like my it was I think my first 20 miler that I'd ever ran.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I
Dang.
just it honestly I felt so euphoric running. I did it. Um, it's just between the music, like I felt like the main character. You know, like all the cars around, people I'm passing on the sidewalk. I felt like everyone was looking at me, and I loved it. And it's just I just like I was in this um just the Zen state. And I remember
Yeah, man.
finishing.
Flow.
Yeah. It was total Zen state, total monk mode, and yeah, that's and especially like the long run. Like I didn't care about. I mean, it's still a pretty decent pace, but yeah, I just love covering so much ground. I love looking at the Strava map after and seeing like the route I took, and I just wanted to do it again. Um,
Yeah. Dang. Well, I can attest to the flow, man. Like, and flow happens to me more on trail than it does on road.
yeah,
Like when you're on road, sometimes you're just running in that straight line and it doesn't engage me enough to get into the flow state. But man, when I'm on the trail and I'm like having to look at my feet and watch where I'm
yes,
stepping and going on, like you're turning and going up hills and whatever, like for some reason that level of engagement with my head and running, I just get into the flow and I could do it forever. Um, and I listen to a book sometimes too, and that just helps. It enhances it. I
yeah,
love
just
that feeling too, man.
that mindfulness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
if you don't mind, real quick, I'm just gonna switch. Um, just go inside my car and plug my phone
No,
in.
go ahead.
It's cool.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
Sorry, bro.
Be a shame if you died now.
I know, I know. 2 seconds.
You're good. This is as real as it gets, listeners. We're just throwing this together in real life. That's how this works.
All right, cool. I'm good to go. Um,
Sweet. So you did you do the marathon?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did the marathon. I finished 3 hours and 37 minutes. Um,
Oh dang.
yeah, I
Killed it.
I didn't go to the bathroom one time, even though I had to, probably at mile 13.
Ooh,
Um,
number 2?
no, just nothing. Well, no, I had to pee really bad,
You
but
had to pee.
I just I don't know. I'm just stubborn. There was no way that I was
You
gonna
could
like.
hold it.
Yeah, every time I saw a porta potty, I was like, "This is the one," and I'd run past it because I just couldn't. Like, I'd be running with
Yeah,
people. There
dude.
was no way that I could just fall back. I was like, "Can I really not like hold it?" So I ended up just holding it the whole time.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that with number 2, but you could do it with number 1. Yeah, you
yeah.
could do it.
So marathon, and in that training, yeah, 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 I was loving the running, and that was September of 2022. Um, and I was hungry for another race. I wanted to do something. Um, there was the Batona Trail 55 miler happening 2 months later, literally 20 minutes away from me, and like it scared the crap out of me because I'm like 55 miles. Like I'm just trying to you're trying to rationalize it, but you kind of can't. I'm like, okay, I can run 26, so I can probably run 30, and then maybe I can like jog to 35 and um maybe hike a couple more. Like I literally was trying to figure like my brain was trying to figure it out, and it really couldn't. It didn't know what was on the other side of it. And I think that's what like triggered something. Like I like the fact that I didn't know what was there. And there's only one way to figure it out. Um yeah.
I love that. How did you hear about that? Did you know about ultra running already? Like you knew that was a thing somehow?
Yeah, I like I was familiar with ultra running like very minimally. Like I feel like everyone kind of has this like arc, but like I knew who Goggins was, and like he'd always talk
Yeah.
about like 100-mile race. So that was like to the extent. Like I knew that there was something out there. Um so I was familiar like at least like a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I know you've listened to a few episodes, but probably half of my episodes, someone says Goggins
Yeah.
inspired them to do this, and it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Props to him. Uh,
Yeah.
Sick.
So yeah, and there's something about just like you were saying with the Zen state and the trails. I really, because I was so close to where the trail was going to be, I started to drive to the trailhead and run in the woods. And I'm even getting chills just thinking about it now. Like, I just felt this, there was this solitude. Um, I felt like I was in like in a different planet. Like, you hit your watch, you're in the woods, no one's there, and like you just go. And like, it's almost like scary a little bit because like things could happen. You know what I mean? Like animals
Hmm.
could be out there. Like no, like people know you're on a run, but like if you get hurt, you're out there, and that like that fear, like I like it was addicting. Like I like that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you're not crazy. Yep, that's a thing.
yeah, yeah. Um, oh man, yeah. So
So you ended up liking trail more than road, or do you like them both? Like for different reasons, or
honestly, I still hit a lot of road runs. I couldn't
yeah,
tell you why really, but I definitely feel a spiritual connection to being on the trails and a
yeah.
certain mindfulness, especially because every single step you have to watch. Like, no matter how experienced you are, you're still going to trip on a branch or a stone. So, um, yeah, I definitely the trails are close to my heart for sure.
Nice. Yeah, nice. Same. Okay, so you signed up for this 55 miler, and you had finished your marathon in September 2022, I believe. And
Yes.
when was the 55 miler?
55 was November 10th.
Oh, dang, yeah, you're already trained up, so it makes sense. You got
Yeah.
2 months to like, so. Did you do, I mean, you already trained up for a marathon. Did you do anything more? Like, did you change anything training wise for that? You're back.
Cool, cool. Um, Training wise, it was just I knew I just needed to put miles in, and doing some research, I knew that and something is still I've learned from experience, back to back long runs. Um, so hitting a like a 20 and then hitting a 15 the next day, so things like that. But it was really like just running because I was just feeling connected to it. I was feeling like this greater, um, like this connection that was bigger than me. Like I was training for this race, but also it was like I needed to run. Like I had to get out, and I just needed to go on long runs. It just silenced everything. Um, Work is crazy. Work is loud. People, cars, like anxieties. But you go on a run, and it's just quiet. Um, so that was like my mindset, my training plan going into like my first 55 was just I ran because I loved it and I knew I needed to do long runs, so I did that. It was really as simple as that, really.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
I like what you said about it. Running, like, calming you down and, like, yeah, taking the anxiety, taking the edge out of life.
yeah,
That's, I love that you fell in love with running. um, you weren't just pushing for the race; you were also already in love with running, which I think is really important. Like, I'm gonna run my first 50K the end of this week.
hmm,
Super excited, but um, I think it was really important that I came to love running before you know, I
yeah,
mean, I think I started loving running because of all the training I was doing for these. But it's important to keep that love, or else you might just fizzle out. Like, I could see myself being burnt out if I don't know. And that's a whole other thing, is maybe burning yourself out by signing up for too many
yeah.
races. But have you ever felt that? I'm curious.
Um, yeah. I especially after this race, so I guess I'm jumping a little bit, but
That's
I
okay. Yeah,
um yeah, like my training miles per week, miles per month were just like going through the roof. And
yeah,
I knew it wasn't sustainable. And I've learned now that like, they're kind like you can't sustain certain things. And I never because I love running, I never want to burn out. So like if I never want to feel like I need to do a race or something, like just like you should always kind of be pushing yourself, I think, but I try to just do what I feel called to do, you know. Um
yeah.
So yeah, I definitely have like I can't say that I've been burnt out, but I
Cool.
felt like I could have like gotten there if I kept doing what I was doing.
Hmm. Well said. And doing what you felt called to do. That's a good way of doing it. Don't just sign up for something because you have to do
Yeah,
the next distance or something, or
exactly.
but man, I feel like I need to do this. Like, it feels like an adventure. That's how it's felt to me so far. It's like, dang, a 50K, like that sounds like a super fun woods adventure, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And that's another thing you said like a minute ago about going on runs and that sort of quieting certain anxieties and things. I really noticed that like during a run, especially after that, like you can really pinpoint like, okay, I'm sore because I ran, my legs hurt, I did this. Like you can pinpoint this sort of energy like to the running, and without that, like my mind would just be going, um, but all that worry and all these things, it's like it hyper focuses. You can just put all that energy into the running. So that's really another thing that helped me fall in love with it, and it became like a fundamental part of like how I basically like dealt with anything. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Well said. It's a great, no, it's a great way to, like get to release anxiety, to release emotions, I think, like to chill out. It's like, yeah, running is part of my me time,
Yeah.
my personal time. Like I run in the mornings a few times a week, and that's like sacred time for myself. And yeah, it becomes a part of you. Like I can't imagine not running at least 2 times a week,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
3 times a week usually. Like if I miss those, I feel wonk,
Yeah.
because it just helps regulate me at this point.
That level headedness, that homeostasis, it keeps you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Without it, like I know I was struggling before I had a good physical outlet. I was
Mhm.
pretty sedentary. Video games was my outlet a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then sitting, I can't remember what I was watching the other day, but some movie or book said sitting usually leads to more sitting. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, you're right. Like I'll sit and play a video game and I'm like, yeah, I'll only play for an hour. And then it would lead to like 3+ hours of just
Yeah.
playing a video game. And
Yeah.
like even though I had other things I wanted to do, but anyways,
Yeah.
writing has been a fantastic outlet for me to help me feel like I'm doing like something good for me,
Mhm.
but also something that I want to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that way at the beginning, but it is now. Running was hard at first month or two when you're running like 3 miles and it hurts.
Yeah.
That not super fun, but like once you get to where you can run farther
Yeah.
and run longer, it just becomes fun for some reason.
Dude, that's exactly it. People used to ask me a lot more, and they still do, like how, like I'm trying to run, or like I can't run more than 2 miles, like it sucks, it hurts. And I'm like, I've been there, but it truly, the trick to like running further or running more is you have to love it. And like that's sort of like you can't teach someone how to love it. Like it really is just a feeling, and you either kind of you get it or you don't. But that's the trick, really.
Yeah, that's so tricky to explain to people. Just,
Yeah.
but I didn't have it, and I just had to push through because if the first
Yeah.
bit, it just kind of sucks. I don't know, but part of why I love running, and I've explained this in other episodes, so I won't go too in depth. But
Mhm.
I listened to books while I ran, and I
Yeah.
loved doing that, and so that helped me love running. And then I think pushing myself and seeing how far I could go helped me get that love too. And then eventually I just loved how I felt while I ran. But
Yeah.
it probably took 2 months or so for that to like
Yeah.
settle. The
I
first month or two was just ugh,
I can totally relate.
sick.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah.
Good for listeners. I bet a lot of you are considering getting into running at all or looking at your first ultra, and yeah, man, you may be in that point where running sucks, and that's okay. Push through till you can run. Somebody said in a past episode, once you can run 6 miles without hurting, like running is just really fun. And I think that was true for me. I don't know if that's true for everyone, but I think that's true for me. But
No,
um,
that's really
so
funny. Well, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead,
I was just gonna say, like, there's such a deep spiritual connection, and like you have all these like these fun things, like once you're in it. But in the beginning, sometimes it really is just like you got to push through, like a couple months. Like sometimes the advice is as simple as that: push through. It's gonna hurt, and then all the stuff that like people talk about comes. Um, but yeah, that's I just wanted to throw that in there. But
Yeah, I bet it's true for the people that like the gym. Like I've never gotten to the point where I love the gym. You've been at the gym, so maybe you could help me here.
yeah,
I've never loved going to the gym, but I never got to the point where I felt like confident in my ability at the gym, like and confident like I knew the moves that I was doing and I knew the workouts were going to get me a
right,
result. I never had a goal either.
yeah,
It was just kind of like I want to be fit, and it was really vague.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. I never fell in love with it, but some people love the gym and like go in there with goals and they
Mhm.
get crap done and they can't live without the gym. But for me, it's like the running. I have a goal with running. I want to run a 50K,
Yeah.
and that'll change. Maybe it'll be a 50 miler next time. And the first bit sucked running, but then once you get good enough and get the proper equipment, like it just becomes fun. Running shoes, if anyone's listening to this and does not have proper running shoes,
Yeah, that's crucial.
go get them now. I know they cost money, but you need to do it because it makes running fun. I could run 1 or 2 miles more the day that I bought those shoes just from the shoes. It
It's
was
so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Even
rock, Andrew? What shoes are you rocking?
yo, I honestly, like, even though I'm like I've had these shoes for so long, I don't even know how to say the brand, but the Saucony, um,
Oh yeah, yeah. How do you say
en-
it? Saucony. That's
endorphin,
how I.
Saucony endorphin shift or speed. Um, I've gotten the same shoe now. I think past 4 or 5 shoes. I
Oh
figured it
nice.
out. Like, uh, for some reason, I just that brand. It was like the first one I picked and I liked, and I just kept trying different styles of that brand.
Yeah.
All of which I kind of liked, but when I finally got the endorphins, um, that was it. And I've just been buying the same exact shoe for like the past year now.
Ooh, that's nice. You
Yeah.
found the shoe, man. I don't know that I found the shoe. I bought Hoka's right off the bat because I like colors.
Yeah.
Dang Hoka, and they've got pretty colors. Gosh dang them. And not many other shoe companies do the vibrant colors. But yeah, Hoka does. I feel like they fit pretty good. I love the cushiness, but the my left shoe rubs my like the what part of my foot? It rubs the right side of my foot in one spot, and it's calloused there, and it doesn't hurt. But it's like I wish it didn't rub there.
Yeah.
Like maybe if I ran long enough, it would be a problem. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think they're a little too tight. But
Right.
my right foot's fine, so I don't know. So I'm like, I wonder if there's a better shoe out there for me. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I do love the Speed Goats, and my I don't remember the name of the road shoes, but anyway, they're
It's
good
funny you say
stuff.
that about the colors because, like I've totally transitioned to like the all whites. I've gotten
Oh no,
the same all
that's a
white
shame.
endorphin. And everyone's like, "Don't you know it's gonna get dirty?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna have to get new shoes
Uh,
before they even get dirty anyway." But I don't know, something about the all whites. Like I love the like brand new all white shoes on the trail. Just knowing it's gonna get dirty and just like embracing it. I don't know. So it's just like something fun about that.
Dang, good for you, dude.
Yeah.
They make a white trail shoe. Dang.
Well,
Okay.
honestly, they're definitely not trail shoes, and that's another thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm I'm not gonna claim that I'm like doing the smartest thing, and I wouldn't recommend what I do to anybody, but I definitely am wearing like road shoes and shoes probably for more speed than anything, but they work for me and that's what I do. So
Yeah. Dang. Cool. Cool.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so we totally went
yeah.
off on this tangent, and I loved it, and that was my fault. So don't
No,
worry
all
about it.
good.
I think it was good though. People need to, especially the newbies, need to hear like the different types of shoes and things to think about. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. So you 55 miler, and you said you did back to back long runs was sort of a difference in training, but you trained for this sucker,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in November of 2022. Um, okay. I Before we get into the story of it,
Yeah.
were you feeling pretty confident before that you were going to be able to do this thing?
Um. Yes. Only for a couple of reasons. That doesn't mean I wasn't scared to death. Um. I'll be completely honest with you. I didn't when I signed up for it. I wanted to not tell anybody, so that if I DNF'd, then no
Yeah.
one would know. So like, I had there was just this overwhelming fear, and I knew that was like this insecurity of failing inside of me, but I realized like what it was. So I made sure to tell my friends, tell people, and I'm like, I'm doing this thing. I might fail, but I have to tell you. Um, but because mind, body, and spirit, so I was so bought in. I knew I was doing my running, but like just mentally, like I was gonna crawl to the finish line. Like even if I had to walk, I was gonna get it done. And when I made that decision in my mind, whatever it took, I was going to do it. So I personally made that decision. It clicked in my mind. I didn't know how the finish line was going to look, but I knew that I was going to put everything out there. So I was scared to death, but I still had that deep rooted, I'm going to finish this.
Nice. Yeah, makes sense, man. It's like a
Yeah.
whole nother. This is double what you did before,
Yeah.
so it makes sense to have like uncertainty, um, but confidence because you'd been kicking butt. I mean, so far in your running career, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So cool. So race day, November 2022. This isn't too long ago. It's about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to recall in as much detail as you can muster um, the details of that day, from like the night before, morning of, how you felt, what you ate for breakfast, where you were staying, if it was like nearby, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like all these little details till when the race starts, and then like any details and things you remember
Mm-hmm.
from during the race,
Yeah.
any high moments, low moments, crazy things that happened until you cross the finish line. We want to hear all of that stuff.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So like I said, mind, body, and spirit, I was just so tunnel vision. So the night leading up, um, couldn't sleep, but I've learned now, like that's totally normal. Um,
Yeah.
so couldn't sleep. I'm up late, but I, I'm so prepared. I have all my stuff ready. I only lived about 20 minutes from where the race started. Um, so my plan was I was gonna wake up, drive to the trailhead, and just like I was such a newbie, but I just accepted it. I was like, I don't know exactly how this is gonna go, but I remember I had um like pickles. I was just getting so into like electrolytes and like realizing how important these things were. So like
Yeah.
making sure that I drank some pickle juice in the morning. I cooked some bacon because I was so nervous that like I couldn't really eat anything, but I could eat bacon, and I knew like with the salt and everything that was I think going to be good. So I had some bacon.
Yeah.
I cooked that up, some pickle juice, um, and I know I had some kind of carbs, but it was probably like Cliff Bars or something like that. Just because they were in the house. But just I was so nervous that I could barely eat, but I knew I had to eat something.
Dang.
So it's probably race probably started at 6 a.m. So it's 5 a.m. I'm in my kitchen. It's just
Oof.
so quiet.
Yeah.
I love those mornings before race. It was so quiet. Um, and I'm having that stuff. So all my running stuff, everything I'm bringing is already in my car. Um, my a big part of like my training, like I love music. Like I absolutely love it. I feel like I always have like certain anthems and songs playing. And there's this song called "The Woods Aren't Safe Anymore" by a local band. So I remember driving, and it was just cool because I knew I was going to be in the woods for hours. So I'm listening to this song. It's like pitch black out, 5:30 in the morning, driving up the highway to get to the trailhead. Um, so I get there, and I'm one of the first cars there, and I'm like, what's going on? Like, if you can imagine just the most opposite thing from a marathon start, like, there's colors everywhere, there's loud music, it's daytime, like big stands, like marathon all over the place. But here, it's just
Yeah.
you're just in a parking lot, and like you're following directions, like the GPS doesn't even know where you're going. Like you're just following. Like I kind of am familiar with the area. There's not really cars there, and then I finally pull up and I see a couple cars. And I'm like, all right, I'm in the right spot. And there's just like one person with a headlamp with the bibs, like with a table that you're registering for. And I just remember like I was like, this is awesome. Like it is just so bare bones. Um, so I parked. I'm in this, this pitch black parking lot. Get my bib, and now I'm kind of getting the vibe. Like I see people in the back of their cars, like with a bed or kind of getting ready, stretching. I'm like, okay, like people must have camped out the night before here, which is really cool. Um, so yeah, put my bib on, and I'm kind of just like, all right, like I don't even, yeah, just total zen. Just ready to get going.
Nice.
So so yeah, because the Batona Trail is like 50. It's like about 55 or like 53 miles. It's just like you're just gonna run one loop. So they had school buses
Hmm.
that took you from the trailhead to the start, and then you just basically ran back to your car. Which
Oh,
I love that
nice.
concept too. It's just sort of like I knew I was gonna finish it because I had to get back to my car. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I had to get back somehow. So it's pitch black. We get on the school bus, and I have my vest, I have my stuff, and I felt so like exposed. I was like just so vulnerable. Like I'm about to just put myself through the hardest thing ever. And on top of that, we're in the school bus driving through the woods to get to the trailhead. It was just so like out of my element. Um, we finally
Yeah.
get there because it's November in Jersey. Like it's pretty cold. Um, we finally get off. Everyone's got their headlamps on in the woods, and like there was no frills or anything extra. It was just the race director um counting down, and you just go. And now there's probably I guess 100 or so people, um maybe even less. Like I can't exactly. It wasn't too many people, but I'll never forget what it looked like with all these headlamps just in a line going through the trail. I felt um oh my gosh. Um like I felt like I was in a movie or something. It just felt so like I was like, this is freaking like I couldn't even listen to music or anything. I'm like I just wanted to hear the feet on the footsteps, see these headlamps. I remember thinking like we are like these. I'm with these savages that are out in the middle of the woods at 6 a.m. It's cold out, and we're just running 55 miles. I remember thinking like these are the savages I want to be with. Like this is who I want to be, and it just felt so right. It felt so cool. Like there are people out here doing this, and I'm one of them. Um. So yeah, yeah. That's
Dang.
yeah,
Well explained, man. I
yeah,
love this detail right now, just so you know. I
yeah.
am
All right, cool,
wrapped up
cool.
in your story right now, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so we're my mind like I want to. One of the things I read, like which is still like true to this day. Like you don't want to go out too fast, and I knew that.
Hmm.
So we're probably running at like a 12.5 minute mile pace, and like that's
Solid.
yeah, it's pretty like you're trotting through the woods. But I'm like, okay, we're on
Yeah.
mile three. Like, what am I gonna do? Run past these people and then just get past? So I'm like, okay, I'm cool with this. And I'll never forget this one lady. She had her running vest on. She had this little like keychained on. It was this little like stuffed like anime character or something, and
Uh,
it's like on her shoulder back area, and it's flapping around as she runs, and it's just staring me right in the face. And I don't know, something about that like this innocence of like this little thing. Like maybe she wore it for like a one of her kids or something, or maybe it's her favorite thing. But I'll just never forget that little thing. So I'm staring at this for the first few miles, just staring at this little keychain. Um, and yeah, so I also remember early on, like my plan, quote unquote plan, because you have a plan, nothing ever goes to plan, especially on an ultra marathon. I was gonna, I was gonna run. Um, sorry, I was gonna eat a certain amount of calories or whatever every
yeah,
3 miles or this amount of time, and that
totally.
that went in the toilet immediately. I remember being a mile in, and I'm like, I'm actually hungry right now. I'm like, like this isn't good, but I just have to deal with it. So I remember a mile in, plan goes out the window, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wait a couple miles just to stick with my plan. So I remember eating like the gels or the chews that I had. Um,
Yeah.
and that was when I like one of the first moments where I really knew that like you got to be you got to be intuitive, you got to be like you got to know your body and you just got to just respond to things naturally. So
Mm.
yeah, I remember just eating early on. Um, yeah, and I'll never forget the that moment where like before the sun rises, like there's that time when like oh man, like the when the sun finally creeps through the woods, like you can finally like turn off your headlamp. Um, oh man, there's just like that eeriness. Like it's kind of foggy because it's like misty out, it's cold.
Mm.
So that visual just leaves on the ground. That was really really cool.
Vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it past fall? Were the trees all dead or?
Yeah, at that point, it was the trees were bare, leaves were on the ground. It was pretty gray and brown all around.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I pretty much I loved being out there. I love the kind of the camaraderie and the unspoken like we're all out here, we're all savages doing this thing, but like we're kind of talking, but like there's just a level of understanding. We're all on the same page. So I love that. Um, but I'd say after a few miles, I was kind of like on my own. I was running. Um, and yeah, I felt like a hero. Like I remembered like oh man, even though I'm just running a race that I signed up for and like there were real heroes out there, it just felt like I was just like a hero in a movie. I'm doing this thing, um, and it just I don't know, it just got me like oh man. I feel like like if you know, you know. Like I was just on, like I wasn't running a race. Like I was just doing this thing that was bigger. Um, so yeah, I was pretty much, I was just hitting the aid stations. I try to keep it simple, like potato chips, bacon, pickles. Um, but I remember, I'd say around mile 25, 30, I was like, okay, this is when I start walking and running. Like, I was allowing like my brain to accept the fact that my legs were hurting. Um, and which I thought was like all part of it, but like it is and it isn't. So I'm walking, and I remember these two dudes behind me. They come running up and they say something to me like, "Oh, they come on." I'm like, "All right, yeah." So I catch up with them or like I link up with them, and we ended up running at least the next, so that was mile like 30, the next like 12, 15 miles together, and I wanted to stop so bad, but I couldn't. I'm like, these guys are still going. Um, yeah, yeah. I remember them offering like food and water and stuff, and like it really just felt like we were in this together. Like I love like the solitude and running on my own, but linking up with them, I realized how crucial it is to like allow yourself to be with other people and accept that sort of invitation and like we're doing this together. Um, so that really really helped because without them, I wouldn't have finished when I did. I would have walked a lot more. Um, but yeah, it was really really cool running just with these strangers. It was yeah
That's cool. It's
yeah
cool meeting your race buddy. It's like the people who run the similar pace next to you for the entire race, or sometimes it's in an ultra. There's so much time you could meet lots of new people, but I do love meeting those people
yeah
and making a race buddy. It's
yeah
cool. Yeah.
yeah. I also remember like because obviously I'd only ran 26.2 miles, so once everything after
Mm.
that like
Oh yeah.
it was uncharted territory, So like
Yeah.
you see the 30 on your watch and like okay now I'm
Ooh.
doing it. Now I'm running an ultra marathon. Um, and it's so funny. Like you're like, all right, I just want to hit 30, and then I feel good. And then you're in the 30s, and you're like, I just need to hit 40, and then I'll be like, then you hit 40, and like, all right, I just need to hit 50. Like it just keeps going. Um, but I'll never forget
Whoa.
when I was at a sandy part of the trail when watch finally hit 50, and I remember just like that was just so. I was like, all right, I'm just on the last handful of miles, but seeing 50 on my watch, um, was really gnarly. And at that point, you could start seeing the shadows, like the sun was going down, and it really set in that like I woke up, started running in the woods, the sun came up, went to the highest point, and is already setting. Like there's something like when you're measuring time by the
Dang.
sun, like I was like, oh man. But I started to get anxiety because I was like, all right, I don't want to finish in the dark. Like I want to. So I kind of with
Hmm.
the last few miles, I kind of hit the gas a little bit because, um, for whatever reason, in my mind, I was like, I wanted to I didn't want the sun to set on me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I finished that race 11 and a half hours. Um,
Dang.
yeah, yeah, it was I remember, and then when I crossed the finish line, I stopped running. Like I'm in that same parking lot that I parked at. My car is right there,
Mhm.
and I just like it hit me that like I've been running for almost 12 hours. Like it's so you you even though I was the one doing it. Like I did it. It was almost hard to like conceptualize myself. Like it's not like an hour, 2 hours, like oh all morning. It's like no, all day. Like people woke up, went to work for 8 hours, came home, had dinner, watched the movie, and I was still running. Like something about that. Oh man, I that that feeling that was yeah, that was really really
That
cool.
is sick. That's a good way of putting it, dude.
Yeah,
People are living their regular life, and I'm out here being a psycho
yeah,
running 50 miles.
exactly. And there's something about that that gets me so giddy. Like I love that
Yeah.
disconnect. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean like not to get too far ahead, but like that's only the 55, and like you start talking about 100 milers in 24 hours. That's when it's like, geez.
Yeah.
So
I
that was just my
can.
first taste of like this insanity.
Yeah. Man, so that's sort of how you felt crossing the finish line. Were there any other feelings, mentally, emotionally, and physically that you were having when you passed the finish line?
Um, there's I don't even know the right words, but it's sort of like you know it when you know it, but like I said earlier, like there was this unknown, there was this fear, um, and then at that finish line, I'm looking at it like I'm sitting in what was once the unknown, um, and that it was like the ultimate at that moment in my life. It was like the ultimate challenge. Like it was, I'd done hard things, like you do hard like throughout your life, but this was the hardest thing I'd done at that point. Um, I I was like I pushed through to the point like oh man that unknown, that fear, I didn't shy away from it, and I got there. And there's just some kind of pride, like a pride, like it almost gets me kind of emotional because like I did this, and I had a lot of help, my parents with like just food and like having a house, things like that. Like I didn't do it alone. You never really do anything alone, but like I went out in the woods and I did this thing and I finished. Um, so just yeah, this intense pride that like I just never felt before in my life.
Dang. I'm so glad you felt that.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's why a lot of us get going on this journey, this like distance running journey. Like
yeah,
that was totally it for me. Is like I need to do something hard. I need to do some hard things in my life because I wasn't being tested and I wasn't doing hard things in other
Mm-hmm.
areas of my life. I was in like a stable job that I wasn't learning anything in. I wasn't doing anything exceptional anywhere else. I was like, I need to do something. So I started running. I started running long distances. I was like, I got to see how far I can go. So I, do the half marathon, did that, got to do the marathon, did that, got to do the 50K. That's where I am
Okay.
now. But, it's cool. Because we do those things and we complete those things, and you can show yourself that you can do hard things, you can do exceptional things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
and yeah, I mean, hopefully that builds your confidence in running, but hopefully it builds your confidence in your ability to get anything done. Like if you wanted to do anything, you could do it. Like that David Goggins crap. I love it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can, it just do it. Like you can. Um,
I don't
I
know
love
where I
it.
heard this, but it was definitely one of those phrases that was kind of on repeat around this time in my life. I don't even know if it's real or someone said it or whatever, or if it's just a mix. But you don't have to do anything, but you can do everything. And it was just like, oh, like something about that just hit. Like no one told you to do this. You don't have to wake up early and do these runs, but just so you know, you can do everything. Um, and like I don't. Oh man, that one just hit.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah. Yeah, man. Dang.
Yeah,
I loved your story, man. That hit home. Like everything you just said is like, man, I'm going to be experiencing that for the first time. I mean, I sort of experienced that in the marathon, like
yeah,
the really early morning.
yeah,
I think we started at 6 or 7. Yeah, I think we started at 6. Yeah, we got up in the morning. It was pitch black. You take the bus, the start, and it's like you're with a bunch of other psychos running
yeah,
and running a long ways. And the marathon people are a whole nother type of psycho because they're all trying to run fast,
yeah.
which isn't me. So, but anyway, like that, I love that vibe, and I'm excited to feel that again. Yep, I got another bus on this one, so I'll take the bus, the start, point to point,
Yeah.
50K, and man, it's just I'm excited to get the same
Mm-hmm.
feels and experience that you explained there.
Dude, I'm excited for you because it's like nobody can take it from you. Like you do this thing and you have it forever. No matter what happens, no one can take it from you. And that's a cool feeling.
Dang, yeah, it's true, dude. We got the story of your 55, and I mean it's getting late, but I would if you got time.
Dude,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, like I know it's even later where you are, but like, yeah, dude, I got time for sure.
Andrew's got time.
Yeah,
It's only 9. It's 10 where I'm at.
yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
Um, I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear. I know Andrew's done more since his 55 miler. I'd love to have him share one more story of another ultra that he's run that's close to his heart. Um, yeah, in similar detail, maybe like
yeah,
just the highlights.
for sure.
Yeah, cool, man. Do it. Tell
Yeah,
us, and also, okay. Spoiler: it's 100 miler. Okay, but before you get into it,
yeah.
into the story of it, what was the difference in training?
Um, volume that
Okay.
like you can't fake. Um, like just volume week after week. Um, yeah, I mean, generally at a baseline, the training was the same, but just volume. Like that's how you're gonna do 100 or something like that. And you can't fake it. So that's really the difference in training.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well said. What was your weekly volume
So yeah.
at like the height of training?
Well, yeah. Just to just a quick, like, just to conceptualize, like, leading up to the 55, I was probably hitting like 40 or so, 40, 50. Um,
Okay.
55 was that race was really like that's not even before that, but that race itself, finishing it was really what got me into like this is my jam. Like this is what I'm doing now. So after this
Hmm.
race, that was November. Um, Pretty quickly went up to about 70-mile weeks, pretty consistently. That December, I hit. I think it was like I think I was at like 100 because I took some time off like to rest. That month, I think I was at like 150 miles. January, I was at I think 350. Um, so I was pretty consistently hitting 70-mile weeks with. I would even sprinkle in a 90. I hit a couple 100-mile weeks. Um,
Holy manoli.
yeah, pretty
And
much for the sake of just because of everything we had been saying, like doing hard things. That was just my mindset. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, like what you kind of led into, like that race that's really near and dear to my heart was it was the same trail that I did the 55, except just going there and then basically coming back, which I couldn't wrap my head around before. Like I did 55, and I'm
Oh.
like, there's no way I could do this again. But then there's that little voice in your head that's like, maybe you could. Like you can, like you did it halfway. You can't just come back. Um,
Mm.
so that's what really elevated my training. Like I said, the miles are really coming in like 300 to 400-mile months, which was like came out to 70, 80 to even 100-mile
and
weeks.
and on that, um because people are listening to this and going, holy frick,
Yeah,
that's a lot of miles, and a lot of time.
yeah.
Because like that's the problem for me. I don't know if I'll ever do 100 because I don't know if I can commit the time it takes to train for a 100 miler. But what other things did you have going on in your life? Were you able to like not do much else and like just hammer it on because like your work was really relaxed part time, or maybe you're full time and you're just like going ham? I don't know. What did your life look like?
So yeah, during this time I was working full time. Um,
Holy moly!
but I realized, um, well, I mean, there's still sacrifices. So I was working full time, but that was part of um my mindset, my training was I didn't want to let work because that could be an excuse. I work full time. Oh, I can't get the miles in. Like that's a valid
True.
excuse. But I was like, I'm not gonna. I want to be able to work full time and still get this in. Um,
Yeah, you
but I
can.
realized, I don't have any kids. I didn't have a
Yes.
girlfriend at the time. So I realized I was in a position that a lot of people, aren't in.
Yeah.
Um, and that's just the way it is. So I really try to embrace that
Cool.
because who knows how long that's going to be the case. So I realized this sort
True.
of opportunity I had, um, and my work was super cool. Um, with like, I was working full time, but like they knew what I was doing, so they would just like they had my back. If I needed like support or something in any way, they had my back. But yeah, I was working full time. Sometimes 6 days a week, so it was like 30 hours, but 30 to 40 hours a week, which you know, um, but I didn't want to allow myself to use that as an excuse, and that's why training for this 100, um, really like changed my life, not just in terms of running or like just training, but like my mindset for like forever the way I am. Um, it totally altered and just set the tone for the way I live my life now. Um, because I realized that I wasn't going to be able to, it was going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And hearing the stories about people running 100-mile races, um, and just like the pain cave, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how am I gonna do this when I'm at mile 80 and everything hurts and I want to quit? Like, but I'm still over here. I can't wake up early in the morning and go for a run. Um, I like these little like it became bigger than just a race. I had to harden my mind in every aspect because I knew it was going to take everything. Um, so this turned into me, waking up early, running before work, doing stuff like taking cold showers, just everything that I didn't want to do, everything that made me uncomfortable, I I had to ask myself why, and then I had to do it. So yeah, the yeah, doing all those things, it became bigger than running. It became bigger than just that race. I had to completely um change the way I, maneuver through life. I started to read a lot more. I started to read. This was like a huge um part of my training was I was reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Um
Mm.
and it was just all about the mindset, all about anything that happened, any adversity, to not just be able to accept it or just go along with it, but to almost like want it to happen, almost like smile in the face of adversity and hope it happens because you're so prepared and you're so composed. Um, so this was sort of like a metaphor for my life, but also taking this mindset to the race because I knew these things were going to happen. So yeah,
Mm.
this is sort of my mindset. Um,
Sick.
yeah, yeah,
Dude, thanks for explaining.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
fantastic. It, yeah, helps us understand how you're able to get it done, and that's a great mindset, man. So, 100 miler.
yeah.
So how, yeah, what was race day like?
Um, so I'm familiar with it's the same spot where I did the 55. So I'm familiar with the area, but minus the bus because we got to run out and back.
Yeah,
My brother's with me, which was super cool. We're just like, I got my bit. I'm so just like the 55.
that's right.
Yeah. So
Did
this
he
is where
pace you?
the two stories merge.
Yeah, yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. Um, but but I couldn't have that pacer. I couldn't have him join me till 50. So like he wanted to be at
Hmm.
the start with me. I wanted him there, um, just because that support is so crucial. Um, so yeah, I remember we're there. I got my bib, and just like the 55, mind, body, and spirit. I'm just like I was so committed. Like I was willing to die out there. Like anything, I'm doing this hunt. Like I wanted that belt buckle. I wanted everything. So race day, everyone's there. It's just like the same psychos before. I'm like, this is just like this. It feels like home. It's just like this is what I'm gonna do. And I remember like the race started. I hit my watch. My brother gave me a fist bump, and I just went out. And like it's just there's a certain like I get like butterflies just thinking about it. Like I'm just with my people. I'm in the woods. I trained a lot in the exact woods, so like everything felt like home. Um, and there was just so much trust and faith in myself. Um, and yeah, it's funny in the beginning of the race, something like this, like you're not hurting yet, like nothing's hurting yet, you're not uncomfortable, and I almost just I wanted that first pain to hit because then that's when the race really starts. Um,
You really are psycho. I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
because it's coming, and it's just
Yeah.
like it's just lurking there. So I just wanted to get to that point, and that probably happens, at around mile 20 or 30. You feel your legs a little bit. Um, but yeah, I could probably talk about this race for like for hours and hours and hours. But that's race morning, how it looked. And yeah, it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Just like you heard a little bit in my brother's interview, but it started pouring rain at mile like 70 for the next 30 miles. Didn't let up. Middle of the night, my IT band was just like I thought my knee was just ripped to shreds. My hip was hurting me so bad. Um, but when I finished that, when I crossed the finish line, that pain mixed with like the pride and accomplishment was a euphoria that like I have been looking for ever since. Like it's a feeling that oh man, it's beautiful. There's just an absolute like that's nirvana right there. The pain doesn't even matter. Like you oh man, it's just yeah. So that's yeah, that's a quick synopsis of the 100-mile race. But just to add some more context, absolutely nothing went to plan. Um, I have to throw a shout out to my buddy Garrett, who was one of the early inspirations for me to do my try. He was there with me, also pacing. Couldn't have done it without him. But yeah,
Dude, just doesn't give it justice because I know there's so much more
yeah, yeah,
that happened. Um, yeah, man. Maybe speaking to the difficultness mentally. Was that hardest part mentally when you were also struggling physically? Was it like the knee and the hip were really hurting at mile 70 or 80 or whatever, and that's like when you were at the lowest low mentally, or did you have a mental low? I don't know, but what was that like?
yeah. Honestly, before I was physically hurting too much, I was about at mile 45, and like this was even though like, yeah, like you just described, all that pain that was terrible. But mile 45 mentally hits different because you've just been running for 45 miles. Like that is you could you could tie that up, put a bow on it. 45-mile race, like that's crazy
Yep.
impressive. But to know that you're not even halfway done,
Oh man.
when you think about that it hurts mentally. Um, and you
Oh,
tell yourself you can't think too far ahead, but you do. Like you think about that and you realize you ran for 45. You still have 5 more just to get to halfway. That one, you go in a low spot there. At least I did. um,
dang.
so that
I
one hurt
feel that
mentally.
right now
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. It's just like the personification of just doom. Like you're not
Oh,
even being halfway and having done so much is a hard thing to wrap your head around.
yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's terrifying.
it
You
is.
have to do that one more time.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, like getting to the point and then turning around to be like, I have to do all of that
Yes.
one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Dang. That is so sick. But like you said, man, like that's why ultra runners keep doing this. That's why runners keep going to the next distance, is because you feel so good at the end
Yeah.
that you just
It,
you just got to do it again.
it's exactly that. It's there's a level of growth that happens in these races that you can't get anywhere else. Like I finished a race, and even just that day, I'm like I was an infant just yesterday when I started the race. You learn so much about yourself, about your body, about your mind, your spirit. There's just so much growth, and that's really I think the part for me is like I can't get anywhere else, so I have to keep doing these races to keep growing. Um, and you either sign up and you finish it and you are successful, or you don't finish it and you fail. But the catch 22 is that there really is no failure because you still trained, you still had the courage to sign up. So when you look at it like that, it's impossible to fail. Like, and that does something, and it does something for your mental state. So yeah, that's why we keep coming back. That's why we do it, because of that growth and that mental yeah, yeah.
Yep, I know it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so real. I we'll see how long it takes for me to sign up for a 50 miler after this. I don't know.
Dude, if I had to bet, I would say not that long after.
I think
If
I
you're
think
anything
you're
like
right.
me, not that long after.
I think you're right. Um, yeah, dude, you're right. It will be soon. I know I need it. I know I can
Yeah.
do, like, I haven't even ran the 50K, but I know I can run a 50 miler.
Yeah.
I don't know about 100. That's like 250s. So that's still a little out there in my head,
Mm-hmm.
but I know I could do a 50 anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, you're thank you. Thanks for sharing your story today and how you felt. I think that's the most helpful thing, is just understanding how you grew,
Mm-hmm.
how it stretched you mentally and physically. Um, and you just described it so well, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
And appreciate your like being open and honest with how you felt at every point. It was awesome.
Dude, thank
Um,
you. Seriously. I I
just talking to another psycho
yeah,
ultra
dude.
running brother.
I feel like I just like I talk to myself all the time in my head about all these things, and I'm finally like talking to a like-minded person, and I'm like, I can't even get these words out. Like I could go on forever, but dude, I really, really appreciate like you listening, like you doing this. Like it's just awesome. Super grateful to be here, and like truly thank you.
Well, back at you, man, and yeah. Before we wrap this up, I think I have two final questions for you. One, what's coming next for Andrew? You got a 200 miler coming up? Just kidding, maybe.
Dude, that's a great question and something I ask myself all the time. But I after done after doing a couple hundreds, part of me wants to be like, okay, now I run hundreds and that's it. But I have to also be realistic um, to myself. So I did one earlier this year. I think I'm at the point in my life where 100-mile race a year, like I'm cool with that. So I
Yeah,
think next on the docket is, like I said, I'm headed to Utah, um, and I'm looking at races, and I forget exactly what it's called, um, but it's a 50 miler in Utah, like late September, and I haven't signed up for it yet, but it's looking like I'm feeling called to do it. So it's looking like a 50 miler in probably a month and a half, 2 months.
bro,
Mm.
you're gonna have to let me know which one it is because
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I'll send it
We
to
got
you.
lots of 100 milers coming up. We got the Wasatch 100 coming up and the Bear, but I don't know about 50s. We got a few 50s, so
Hmm.
let me know which one. Um,
Yeah, I'll
but
definitely send
dang,
it your
that's
way.
sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Good for you, man. Yeah, 200. I mean, that's next level. I think there will be one episode before you of Jorge Hernandez, who did the Moab 240 several times. And he's the first guy I've had on the podcast that's done anything
Yeah.
more than 100. And it was just whack talking to that guy and
Yeah.
getting him on here because, I mean, he's at another level. Like most people listening to this will be like, trying to get into the
Yeah.
50K 50 miler,
Yeah.
but I think it's fun seeing like somebody way out there like that. It's just doing totally next level stuff.
That gets me fired up. I like, man, I love to hear that. That's amazing. 240. It's not
Yeah.
even you finish 100, and just like I said before, you're not even halfway done. 240. Like
Yep.
that's oh my gosh.
It's psycho.
Yeah.
Several days.
Yeah.
It's like 4 days. It's just crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, you have to listen to it. But
For sure. For sure.
and then last question is,
Yeah.
if you were to give advice to the folk listening that are new, like these are the folk that are thinking about getting into ultra running, haven't signed up yet, or maybe they have signed up for their first ultra marathon. Anyway, but they're new. What final advice would you give to these new folk?
Yeah. Um. I kind of honestly, I kind of just said it like a minute ago, but my fear in the beginning was failure. Um. And from being on the other side of this, like it's impossible to fail because if you're thinking about doing it, you're either gonna, you know, you can sign up and you're gonna accomplish it and it's great, um, or you're gonna learn so much about yourself and you're testing yourself and you're pushing your capacity and your ceiling. Um, so there's not a wrong path. So my advice, um, man, oh my gosh, there's so much I want to say, but like in short, just do it because you cannot fail. Um, so, yeah, I'll leave it at
I
that.
see.
Yeah,
No, yeah, man. It's well said. Everything you do, like when you were running your 50 miler and like every mile past the marathon was a new high score.
exactly.
Like, yeah, dude, like everything you guys do as you're starting this journey, like you'll be setting lots of new high scores. Um and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So awesome, man. Well, thanks again. It was so awesome talking to you, and everyone listening. Make sure to check the show notes. We got some links down there. Like to join the Facebook group Ordinary to Ultra. You can talk to other folk that are doing this thing and that are getting into this, and can help support each other. And there's a Strava group as well, and some other stuff too. But check it out, and look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Thanks again, Andrew. You are the man.
cool. Thank you.
Hey, your host Brendan here. I just wanted to thank you personally for listening to today's episode. As someone preparing for my own first ultramarathon, I've found these conversations to be super valuable, and I hope they are for you as well. Whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or somewhere else, make sure to follow or subscribe so you know when the next episode comes out. Also, make sure you check out the show notes of this episode. There's a link to sign up for the Ordinary to Ultra email newsletter, to join our Facebook and Strava groups where you can meet other people striving to run their first ultra marathon, and see any links that our guests may have provided as well. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next episode.